The really big crowd didn't turn out until after the working day had ended.
Women's liberation now!
A march down Fifth Avenue and a mid-evening rally drew several thousand people, and there were men in the crowd along with the women.
Well, the main demand, of course, is equal rights. Equal rights to have a job, to have respect, to not be viewed as a piece of meat. Equal rights to set forth our own humanity. Equal rights to get into graduate programs, to get into schools, to training programs. We're the bottom third of the employment in terms of pay. We represent, nonetheless, 34% of the workforce, yet we're the first to be laid off and the last to be hired. There aren't frivolous demands at all. We just want what men have had.
To confront the unfinished business of our equality. Women young and old, women black and white, women students, women grandmothers who fought for the original right to vote, women Republicans, Democrats, Socialists, young radical women, establishment women, rich women who know that all women are poor, housewives, professional women, women who are famous, but no woman makes it alone, and that's all women are equal.
The decision to have a child should not be a matter to be decided by the male-dominated legislature.
50 years ago today, the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution gave women the right to vote.
Passed by Congress June 4, 1919, and ratified on August 18, 1920, the 19th Amendment grants all women in the United States of America the right to vote. Achieving this milestone required a lengthy and difficult struggle, and victory took decades of agitation and protest. Achieving this incredible milestone definitely wasn't easy. But with the women's suffrage movement, which began in 1848, women finally got the right to vote. The first national suffrage organizations were established in 1869 when two competing organizations were formed, one led by Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Stanton, and the other by Lucy Stone.
We must win this war, but we can't win this war unless you women take over the jobs that men are leaving. English women have done it for 3 years. American women are now doing it all over the country.
How do you like it?
I love it.
Barges. And what about after this war, Lee?
Well, this job belongs to some soldier. And when he comes back, he can have it.
Oh, that's swell.
Although more women were being able to work, they really only helped during times of war and need. This means that most women were still at home doing housework for their family and friends. Industries boomed at this, and many inventions were made to make the lives of wives easier.
Rich or poor, or if you're smart or dumb, a woman's place in this whole world is under some man's thumb.
Glad you dropped in. Amazing, isn't it? Look at that. And she did the washing and ironing today for a family of 5. The 4 of us and the baby upstairs.
On the first morning of our honeymoon, I discovered my beautiful bride didn't know the first thing about coffee. And I love good coffee. Wife, I said, this is Maxwell House. So remember, be a good little Maxwell housewife, and this honeymoon could last forever.
The view of women continued to be sexualized, and in society's eyes, no woman was ever perfect.
Woman's love is to give and give.
Eastern Airlines presents The Losers.
She's awkward. Not very friendly.
not, but she's too young. Oh, she bites nails. She wears glasses. Honey, no, the other,
If a woman's strength, knowledge, or talents were ever acknowledged, they were often degraded just because she was a woman.
What is that whipcord resilience that lets the weaker sex play half the night, then bob up clear-eyed, ready for the next morning's work?
An ordinary dinner party, the sort of occasion we all enjoy. The men are exchanging witty stories. And look at the women, aren't they pretty? Look at the way they laugh. They're delightful. But oh dear, what's this? One of the women is about to embarrass us all.
I think the government should stay off the gold standard so that the pound can reach a level that will keep our exports competitive.
The lady has foolishly attempted to join the conversation with a wild and dangerous opinion of her own. What half-baked drivel! See how the men look at her with utter contempt.
Daphne, we're going home.
Women, know your limits.
In fact, a third of all American women worked outside the home. But in the 1950s, most were still restricted to low-paying menial jobs with no chance of becoming supervisors or managers. At the Southern Bell Phone Company, the management had a clear policy on what was appropriate for women. They could be operators, but go no higher.
A woman,
As this happened, many American women grew dissatisfied and frustrated. They found their manifesto in a book that became a bestseller in 1963. In The Feminine Mystique, New York academic Betty Friedan wrote a devastating critique of the modern woman's situation. Women, as well as men, can only find their identity in work that uses their full capacities. A woman cannot find her identity in the dull routine of housework, she wrote. If a job is to be the way out of the trap for a woman, it must be a job that she can take seriously as part of a life plan, work in which she can grow as part of society.
Now for the most important announcement. The names of the first runner-up and Miss America for 1971. Illinois is Miss America. We are going to sing your song. Oh, there she is, Miss America.
During the Miss America pageant of 1968 in Atlantic City, many protesters stood outside its doors protesting the show, saying that it was a sexualized degradation of any woman.
The publication in 1963 of Betty Friedan's bestseller, The Feminine Mystique, caused women to re-examine traditional roles and to protest old stereotypes. During the Miss America pageant in 1968, women conducted demonstrations on the boardwalk in Atlantic City. Demanding freedom from the bondage of male chauvinism, many women began to seek professional careers. This emerging consciousness would soon be known as women's liberation. The times were changing.
We didn't burn any bras. They would have happened if they had allowed us to have a fire.
Women use your brains, not your bodies.
The actions of this protest pretty much made a mockery of the feminist movement altogether.
For those who think that the women's liberation movement is a joke vaguely connected with burning bras and getting in the men-only bars, may I disabuse you of that notion. It is about equal pay and equal opportunity in the job market.
But it was a scientific breakthrough, not a change in the law, that made the most difference to women's lives. The birth control pill did more than anything else to give them an entirely new sort of freedom.
This is a highly effective means of contraception. I think the figures currently being used indicate that it's about 99-point-something effective.
By preventing ovulation, the pill let women control their fertility as never before. By 1966, 6 million American women used the contraceptive pill. By 1968, 11 million. Almost overnight, long-held constraints.
With the pill and the feminine mystique, women liberation movements continue to increase in size.
In the name of the Mother, the Daughter, and the Holy Granddaughter, our women.
They knew the importance of publicity and went all out to court it. They challenged every example of male dominance, including the church.
Industrial apartheid, second-class citizens, cheap labor and child minders. That is how women like these have been described by ardent fighters for this elementary piece of justice, equal pay for women.
In 1970, just 2 years later, Parliament passed an Equal Pay Act, which made discrimination illegal.
The words of the song were so blatant that no one could fail to see that it was ironic.
Officially, they'd gained equal pay. Now they wanted to be accepted by men and society on their own terms.
A few years ago, it was a joke. People laughed at us. They don't laugh at us anymore. They take us very seriously. And we know that we're just at the point where we're really getting through to the national consciousness.
The women's liberation movement continued to spread, finally reaching popular TV broadcast systems.
We want equality. This is no feminine frivolity. We'd like some recognition for our status. We weren't put on this earth to peel potatoes.
The Equal Rights Amendment, or ERA, is a proposed amendment to the United States Constitution designed to guarantee equal legal rights for all American citizens regardless of sex. It seeks to end the legal distinctions between men and women in terms of divorce, property, employment, and other matters. Many women were actually against the ERA, fearing that it would limit the rights that they already had, and because it would cause them to be also drafted in the war along with men.
Oh, the women's movement gives women such a negative view of life.
For example?
They tell her, sister, when you wake up in the morning, the cards are stacked against you. You won't get a job, and if you get one, it won't be a good one, and you won't be promoted. And if you get married, your husband will treat you like a servant, or as suggested here earlier, it'll be a master-slave relationship. So really, sister, you just can hardly make it in this life.
Because again, the judges, being men, are giving women a really hard time when their marriage breaks up.
Can I
they
just
ought
say
to
have
have
anything
a
to do
right.
with the Equal Rights
They
Amendment?
ought to have. Yes, it does.
Oh no,
it
doesn't
has
have
been
anything
against
at
the
all.
law to discriminate against women for all these years, 13 years, and yet it costs still several years ago, it cost $3,500 a year to be a woman. Today, it costs $5,000 a year to be a woman.
What do you mean cost to be a woman? What do you mean by that?
That's the difference between what a man is paid and a woman is paid for the same work in all different jobs. It's against the law to do so, but there's such a backlog of cases, of discrimination cases, that if we live to be 100 years old, we're never going to get to all of that backlog of cases.
Only 5% of women were in elective office, 2 out of 12 cabinet members were women, 11% of women were in policy-making decisions, 1.3 worked as federal judges, and 41% of women were in the workforce.
My name is Isabella Locke. I'm 15. I think women's roles in society should be just the same as men's. I think everything should be expected of everyone equally.
My name's Lauren Torres and I'm 16. My views on women's role in society are, I don't think there should be a set role women should have or live up to, but rather be able to live our lives freely without having to fill a role or be held to a certain standard. Just live our lives equal with everyone else.
The hardest thing that I've had to deal with as a woman is definitely sexual assault and then being catcalled by men. I believe that a woman's role in society should be anything that she really wants to be as a human being. She shouldn't follow stereotypical gender norms if that isn't for her. She should be able to branch out and do whatever she pleases. I feel like a woman should have total freedom to do as she pleases.
April Chrissinger, and I am 38. I think women should be able to do whatever they want to do. There shouldn't be any limitations. My name is Heather Pfeiffer, and I am 37 years old. I think that women should be whatever they want to be, obviously. I think that there should be as many women business owners and as many professionals and doctors and lawyers and politicians as men with equal pay. And I think that, you know, we're moving in that direction, but I hope to see that women just continue to have more access and rights and equal pay and opportunity in what they want. That was the hard part for me, living in New Jersey at the time. It was scary. It was real scary because you had no idea where they were going. It was during the Miss Pryor contest, they asked me what I wanted to be. And I said a woman policeman, and everybody laughed. I was serious, you know. I was very serious about it. So when I went to college, my minor was going to be journalism. Back then, it was just so bad. They spin on you, the protesters. And so now I had I felt terrible that it happened. Actually, it was embarrassing to me to see the people that live here in the U.S. so free. And yet, they were treated like dogs.
Susan Lacey, and I was 67. In the 60s, when I was 14, my dad died. And then when I was 16, I got married. And then when I was 17, I had a baby. So from there, I was like home. Okay, that was a real difficult time, very much for me. Because when I had him at 17, he was like my best friend, because I was still a child. So it was like, okay, I have another child and I'm a child. I had my 4 siblings living with me at the time. So I had 5 little kids when I was like 17. And then when I was 20, I had another little boy, you know, and we didn't have baby diapers. Even when my children were little, I had cloth diapers. You know, there was no such thing as just throwing them in the trash. You had to literally wash them out and, you know, wash them, put them on the line to dry. Oh, and I didn't drive a car, Tori, until I was 26 years old. I never got my driver's license at all. And so, well, I just didn't. I didn't have a husband that was nice to me. I didn't even drive a car. I didn't go anywhere much. I lived in the country, you know, just took care of kids. And you know what I did, Tori, to make money for the household food and stuff? I sewed clothes for people. Used to, women, their husband was the most important person in their life, be out in the world. But used to, women, they didn't. They stayed home pretty solid by themselves.
I am woman, hear me roar, in numbers too big to ignore.
But despite the setbacks, Western women were managing to do things they'd not done before.
'Cause I've heard it on the phone.
They could drive racing cars,
No one's ever gonna keep me down again.
play baseball,
First American woman to venture into space will be Dr. Sally K. Ride.
Shirley Chisholm becomes the first black woman nominated for president.
Even today, there are those who are trying to silence our words. But the voices of this conference and of the women at YRO must be heard loudly and clearly. It is a violation of human rights when babies are denied food or drowned or suffocated or their spines broken simply because they are born girls. It is a violation of human rights when women and girls are sold into the slavery of prostitution for human greed, and the kinds of reasons that are used to justify this practice should no longer be tolerated. It is a violation of human rights when women are doused with gasoline, set on fire, and burned to death because their marriage dowries are deemed too small. It is a violation of human rights when individual women are raped in their own communities and when thousands of women are subjected to rape as a tactic or prize of war. It is a violation of human rights when a leading cause of death worldwide among women ages 14 to 44 is the violence they are subjected to in their own homes by their own relatives. It is a violation of human rights when young girls are brutalized by the painful and degrading practice of genital mutilation. It is a violation of human rights when women are denied the right to plan their own families, and that includes being forced to have abortions or being sterilized against their will. If there is one message that echoes forth from this conference, let it be that human rights are women's rights and women's rights are human rights once and for all.